What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Matty P here with Shannon White for another series of content on the Steelers global perspective. It's been about a week since I talked to Shannon, which is quite funny because during the draft, we must have talked, I reckon, I think I counted 6 times in the space of less than 3 days, which was awesome. So it's been a little bit more quiet in the new realm, and the world seems to rumble around after the draft, and everything's kind of happening. And I think all of us thought we'd get the Steelers scheduled this week like I did, but we didn't. But my man, Shannon White, how are you doing before we get into all our content?
I'm doing good. It is strange. It's like the enthusiasm is kind of wearing off, and you see it in the numbers. And for during the leading up to the draft and during the draft week, the numbers are crazy, and then they start to come back down because people's like, okay, now I know who they got. Now I'll check back when OTA start up. There's got to be something going on to pique people's interest. So, these weeks you got to kind of create content.
That's it. And so that's why we thought with this content series, we would focus on the 2023 draft and analyzing the picks there, analyzing what they're like after a year on, maybe even giving them a grade. But really interested to talk about those guys because we really need a big sophomore year out of those guys. We really need them to step up and so that we can continue to build with these draft classes and continue to build with Omar Khan. But before we get into Broderick Jones, to kick it off, I wanted to ask you, what did you think of the Scotty Miller signing?
I mean, I understand. You got another guy familiar with Arthur Smith's offense that can be an asset to the receivers that are trying to pick it up and learn. He's like another coach in a way, telling them what Arthur Smith expects and how he wants these routes done. He was a guy that the Tampa Bay thought we could maybe really blossom because he had some success under Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Or working with Tom Brady. And then when Brady was not there, it wasn't the same. Different style of quarterback in Baker Mayfield and everything. And then he went to Atlanta, and that was a totally different offense. And he definitely didn't have Tom Brady there either. So there's going to be a lot of competition. Yeah. There's a lot of guys that are similar that will, competition brings out the best in a true competitor. And the guys who are not a true competitor will, just kind of fade away, and be forgotten. But yeah. I like Scotty Miller. I think he's got decent hands and he's quick. One thing about it, they've definitely improved the team's speed on both sides of the ball.
That's it. I mean, I don't mind the guy. I think I agree the speed. It makes it funny to me that they took him to Atlanta and thought he'd be successful there if he wasn't successful with Baker, because even though Baker does a lot of throwing on the move, I think Baker's a much better quarterback than anyone in Atlanta. And even right now, I think he's a lot better than Penix, and I think he's probably, if I have to win one game tomorrow, maybe not win game in, game out, if I have to pick a quarterback to win a game tomorrow, I'm still probably picking Baker Mayfield because I just think he can do some special things sometimes. If he could do it all the time, probably a bit different. But yeah, my only one a little bit is around this is that I know we want people to fit the Arthur Smith offense, but I said this in a Twitter comment to someone this week, and I just feel like we're reuniting with too many blokes that have just played in Arthur Smith's offense, and I'm a little bit worried when there's better talent out there from a free agency perspective. So I don't know. It's hard. We've got to wait and see. I can't pass judgment on it. Of course I want players that fit Arthur Smith offense, but I want talent. Like the only thing in my mind, apart from being a pretty decent blocker that like Nicole Pruitt has, is that he's played in the Arthur Smith offense. Otherwise, there are plenty of better tight ends that are still out there, right? Like, I don't expect him to challenge the Steelers' top 2 tight ends. And, so like, it's just some stuff like that I'm a bit, like everyone was high that Van Jefferson had played for the Falcons. I was high on Van Jefferson coming to Steelers because Tomlin has complimented Van Jefferson on his route running before. But like, so I don't know. We'll see. But I was interested to see what you thought of Scotty Miller. But let's jump into what the original show content was going to be about, and that was around Broderick Jones. So obviously the Steelers had pick 17. They traded with the New York Jets and moved up to 14 to grab and nab Broderick Jones in the 2023 draft out of Georgia. I've got a couple of questions for you, obviously, around Broderick Jones and how I can frame this. But I want you to, I'm really keen to find out, did Broderick Jones deliver on your expectations of what he would bring to the Steelers in year one, and knowing the Steelers don't always play their rookies in year one, or don't play them certainly to start the season?
Yeah, I thought it might be different. Omar Khan and Andy Weidel, they brought, they put their fingerprints on everything during the draft and free agency. And we see such a drastic change from Colbert's way of doing things.
Thank God.
I was hoping that would mean that we would see a difference in how they handled the young guys, the rookies, especially first round draft pick. I'm like, you're not going to move up in the draft to take the most athletically gifted, I think, tackle in last year's class, and then not playing. Well, again, they slow played him. It took a while, and I don't think it had nothing to do with ability. There's no way you'll ever convince me that Broderick Jones could not have started that first game and played at least as well as Dan Moore Jr.
Where's my big facts? Where's my big facts?
Dan Moore Jr. is just, we know what he is. We know where he grades out. He's functional, and that's at best. We got to see Broderick Jones play one game at left tackle, and that was his best game. He looked comfortable. He's very athletic. He moves well. He blocks well on the move. He looks more, his pass protection, his fundamentals are much more sound on the left side than they are on the right side. So when they moved him to the right side and it became permanent, you started to see where he had a few struggles with his footwork and his hand placement where he was on the right side. Because he'd have done it at practice, and he'd done it at practice at Georgia, but all of his experience was predominantly on the left side. So,
and you know what's interesting, what you said there? I pulled up PFF. Now, I know we all, including myself, don't like PFF grades. I don't like that. But the game that he played the most amount of snaps at left tackle, because he came in week 4 in the Texans game and played 51 snaps there. So I'm not going to count that because he didn't start. But if you look at the game that he started, the one game, as you say, which is Baltimore week 5, his offensive pass block grade was a 74.8. That was his highest by far all season. And his second highest was a 70.8 against Seattle. But his run block grade was 77.2. Again, that was like 7 ahead of the Seattle game. His pass block grade was a 67, which was his third highest on the year. But obviously that run block grade was very, very high. And obviously that's what we're talking about is what's the level up. He allowed 5 sacks last year, none of them when he played at left tackle. And he allowed a couple late in the season. So that's exactly it. Like that left tackle, we saw this one flash, and it was good, like.
But the Steelers are notorious for doing that. You had Kevin Dotson, who, when he filled in for David DeCastro for a few weeks there in his rookie season, he looked like he could be the answer.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, oh, well, what are we going to do when DeCastro comes back? And I'm like, well, DeCastro, I think he can play left guard. And everybody's like, you're going to move a former Pro Bowl? And I'm like, well, Dotson, just looks so dominant at right guard. So they come back and they end up switching Dotson. And Dotson was never the same on the left side.
But also, I don't understand that. I know we're going a little bit off topic when it comes to Broderick. I'll bring it back. But, I don't understand that reaction of why you can't move that guy. What if DeCastro is the Steelers? Here's a different way to put it. When you get to the point in DeCastro's career, the Steelers have watched how many practice sessions, how many games, have how much tape on him to know whether he might be easier to move to the left side than playing a rookie who was very clearly, when you go back and watch the tape, on the side that he played with Robert tongue-tied with Robert Hunt in college, which probably got him drafted in some ways, because like when people were going to watch Robert Hunt's tape, then they were seeing him because it was, Louisiana Lafayette. So from my perspective, like I find that odd when people are like, oh no, you can't move that guy. That's that guy's first position. Well, Ron Woodson moved positions, like Deshae. I mean, it wasn't nearly as good, but like Deshae Townsend moved positions. But people can move a position. Like they're on a waiver, moved a position. That's none of those three things I've just said are anything like flipping to the left side. And I'm not trivializing the different hand placement and all of that, but like, and footwork and all of that. But like, I don't understand how you wouldn't sit back there and go, maybe we just try it for 1 week. Right, we try moving to DeCastro, and then if it's good at second week, well, maybe we keep going. Like we saw a little bit of that with Matt Filer at times, where they try him at a certain area. Like I always thought he was, when there were certain players on the field, he looked better as a tackle, and when there were certain players on the field, he looked better as a guard. Right, like, but I did naturally think he was probably overall a better tackle than a guard. That's just how I felt about it.
Well, DeCastro missed time because he was dealing with a lower foot or ankle injury. I can't remember.
I think it was an ankle.
The specifics.
Or calf. I'll look it up.
But when he come back, he wasn't the same David DeCastro anyway. And Dotson actually looked better at right guard than DeCastro did for the rest of that season.
Yeah, it was ankle.
Yeah. And so I was like, maybe they didn't want to move DeCastro because due to that ankle injury and putting more pressure if he was on the left side. And, but I'm just saying that, Dotson looked better, stronger, more effective at right guard, and the Steelers never let him go back, even after DeCastro retired.
Yeah, I mean, I must have banged that drum every second.
Well, are they going to? I mean, it sounds like they're wanting to not have a repeat of that debacle, and they're going to move Broderick Jones to the left side, because today at rookie camp they had Fuyato working at right tackle the whole.
Thank God. Well, I hadn't seen that because I was, like when we're recording this, I just went up. So that is good news, because Broderick Jones played like literally, doing the math, like I think it's like 99% or 98% of his snaps were played literally at left tackle. He had 1,358 left tackle snaps in college, and he had 34 on the right side. So, like, why are we trying to change a player that was the left tackle for the Georgia Bulldogs, like national champions? We're trying to change that? Like, what the? And a lot of people, the other thing that I hear a lot of people, they can both play both sides with Furtado. So I'm very glad to hear that Furtado use it. You might have just made my day there, Mr. White. But like, the other thing about it too is that a lot of people forget out there that Darnell and Broderick would tee up on the left side a lot of the time. So you're not just, it's not just Broderick, like whether he plays on the left and the right. How you play that style with Darnell and how you leverage like blocking on that left side and getting that left side run game going and protecting the quarterback blind side, that becomes really, really important when you can do that at the at an extra level, because you've got two guys that know how to play together. You've got basically a tackle, or at least a swing tackle in Darnell anyway. So like I guess it's like it's almost, it's not just a plus to have Broderick on the left side, it's a plus kind of thing. And
he did a lot of work today with McCormick right next to him. And that's exciting, because that's kind of a glimpse into the future, maybe.
I love that. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up the first 2023 draft pick review on Broderick Jones. But Shannon, before we call it a day on that one, if you were to give Broderick Jones a rating out of 5, right? Out of 5 obviously being he had a great rookie year, loved everything I saw, can't wait for year 2. 1 being this guy needs to prove his spot on the roster. Where are you putting Broderick Jones? So you can go 0.5 as well to make it easier.
Yeah, I was going to say like a 4.5. The only drawback was not his fault, but being forced to play on the right side. I loved his competitiveness. He didn't complain. He just put me where you need me. He went in there and he battled. I didn't have any issues with his effort level. And he's only going to grow from that. He had a few struggles on the right side, but that's going to make him a better player. And I think he probably worked on some of those things to, shore up any issues he might have had. But if he can play his left side, I fully expect a 5 season out of him.
I love that. If you ask me on some days, I'd say a 5, and other days I'd say a 4. So I'm going to go with you on a
4.5's right in the middle.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you on that one. Follow your lead on that one for sure. Well, that's wrap up this episode of Steelers Global Perspective. Join us for the rest of the draft picks. We will be doing the second round draft picks, the mid-round guys 3 and 4, and then the late round guys that the Steelers picked in 2020. I'm Matty P with Shannon White. As always, go Steelers.